Last week on Patriotically Correct, Richard and I spoke with a man called Ryan Hartwig, who had a story about a mysterious plane on the ground at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport after he received a tip from an anonymous flight attendant. Hartwig is a former Facebook insider turned whistleblower, and he told us that he's responsible for a criminal referral for that company's CEO, Mark Zuckerberg. Hartwig was obviously nervous during the interview as he provided photographs and talked about a suspicious plane on the ground in Phoenix. He did his best to put it together, but since our interview, questions around the night of November 7th are now producing more and more answers. PC Radio has received and reviewed sworn affidavits, court filings, and now audio tapes of a man claiming to have firsthand knowledge of ballots loaded on planes, secured by the Arizona National Guard, and used to jade the results of the 2020 presidential election in favor of Joe Biden. The tapes we're going to play for you are going to feature the voice of Kenneth Scott Koch. Now, Koch claims to be a family member of the famous political influencing billionaire Koch brothers, and these claims are also substantiated by another party on a separate audio tape. Koch recently ran for political office. He was disqualified as a mayoral candidate due to a discrepancy surrounding the signatures on his petition. Koch works for a security agency. That agency is called Mayhem Solutions. They're based in Casa Grande, Arizona, but according to online sources, the agency provides services statewide. Mayhem Solutions, the company that Koch works for, is listed online also as having a certain DoD cage number. This number apparently grants the company the ability to do business with and bid for contracts by the United States government. In a sworn affidavit obtained by PC Radio, the petitioner asserts that they had contact with a whistleblower who works for a shipping company. That anonymous person said that they were working a night shift on November 3rd and on November 4th when shipments of suspicious ballots came through the facility, traveling as a, quote, ghost shipment. The whistleblower describes in the affidavit a ghost shipment as one that isn't properly processed by a United States Postal Service facility and travels as a shipment that cannot be tracked. The whistleblower continued by stating that on November 4th, her employee loaded an entire can of ballots onto a Memphis flight. According to the affidavit, a can is described as a container that holds 1,000 to 2,000 pounds of ballots. The affidavit continues saying that a conference call was arranged between that whistleblower and a Trump team lawyer. It's unknown whether or not that conference call actually took place. According to the affidavit, the affiant says that they were made aware of a tip from the owner of a hangar at Phoenix Sky Harbor Airport who alleged that on November 5th, fraudulent ballots were unloaded from a South Korean plane and were taken to the Maricopa County Tabulation Center for counting. On November 9th, a police report was made after two individuals arrived at the residence of the person that signed this affidavit and appeared to be disabling the security camera system at the home. With a court-protected address, the person was told by law enforcement that it was likely that their communications were intercepted, and it was speculated that a GPS ping may have been used to track down the location of the person that signed and submitted this affidavit. Now, here's where we get to Kenneth Scott Koch. The affidavit says that on November 16th, an associate offered to come over so the affiant would not be alone and to help with studies. Knowing the security system was still compromised, the associate offered to have their associate, Kenneth Scott Koch, who claimed to be a DoD official and had expertise in security systems, come over to the house to check out the security system. The affidavit says, quote, he was a Koch brother nephew and former law enforcement deputy. The associate said Koch, quote, already knew about the planes, end quote. The affiant insisted that they speak with Koch first before being allowed in the home, and during that conversation, the affiant asked Koch how he knew about them, to which Koch replied he had information, but he would not speak on the phone, only he would speak in person. Koch arrived at the home at about 8:30 that evening. Now, according to the affidavit, quote, once in my home, Mr. Koch toured the home outside, inspecting the security system and location of all the cameras. He asked if I had any recording devices, Alexa-type devices, or cameras in the home, and he was told that there were not. The affidavit says, once in the kitchen, the associate suggested that the affiant show the footage to Koch from when the security system was breached. Koch immediately identified one of the men and said he knew the man to be employed by a DoD company, by a company that builds DoD aircraft. He named him. The affidavit reads, quote, at that point I realized that Koch may have some association with the men that were at my door, and I subtly turned on the voice recorder for my phone, and that's when this happened. Watch.
Loaded stuff on the plane. Has video of it.
He's got video of someone loaded on that plane. I'd love to see that. Because I know the two agents that are standing there.
Who are standing where?
At the plane. When it's in Phoenix.
The 8230.
Yes. Those are my guys standing there.
So if his guys are helping it, he needs to know.
Jesus.
This just got deep.
But is it just making up a story? I mean, that's because he's got video. He sent me. Nobody. He sent me some video.
Okay.
I would love to see a video of somebody loading something on that plane. If they can produce it.
Well, he
Seriously doubt they can.
says he has it. He says he has it.
You think they'll send it to you?
I mean, because I'm thinking of what he did send me, and it doesn't show the loading of something on the plane.
I put that Corvette on it. Nobody loaded anything on that plane.
What Corvette? Like that?
They need to drive that.
Oh, that little. That's my son's little.
No, my Corvette.
Oh, your Corvette.
Driveway. I know nobody loaded anything on that plane when I was in Phoenix. There were things unloaded from the plane. There's nothing wrong.
What was unloaded from it?
Ballots were unloaded.
Okay.
And they were shipped through UPS and FedEx here,
To somewhere else.
Las Vegas.
I thought some of them went to the Maricopa County elections.
Some of them did. Most of them went to Las Vegas.
Okay. And so
And then,
that gave the tip, right?
I don't know that.
He owns the Swift Aviation. How would you not know him if
Swift Aviation doesn't really mean anything.
that's where the plane was?
The plane was by, no. Swift Aviation sits here.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the plane is sitting here.
Mm-hmm.
It's not technically at Swift. It has nothing to do with Swift. They may have seen the plane, they may be involved with the plane, but the plane is in the care of the National Guard.
So what about the 200 grand that he got dropped in from Korean Airlines?
My guess is he's full of shit. Because our government agency, we don't need to pay anybody. The National Guard has custody of the plane. The National Guard will have custody of the plane. It's in Oregon and Washington. All three.
Can I ask you one question since now that you know that?
So why are they jerking me around? Why are they telling me all this stuff? And
A lot of these people want to be the center. They want to have information. Problem is, the information they want to have, they don't want.
gotcha.
The information that they have is dangerous as hell.
Yeah, I mean, I think I realize that because he's running around video recording all those things.
I don't know, but I know who it is because he is on our radar just like everybody else.
As a good guy or a bad guy?
Somebody to watch.
Okay, but as somebody to watch, like he's done things to make. Because listen,
Well,
He gets involved in things that he shouldn't be involved in.
okay.
like the anybody in the 3%ers or in the groups are on the watch list or no?
Now, there's certain people in the 3%ers that are on our watch list. We are watching them because they are bad people. They are not who they say they are. They have no interest in helping the 3%ers. They don't have the same values.
So the 3%ers is
They are not harm us
the 3%ers is a good group.
overall.
Not one of those guys that you're just saying that he's just on a watch.
But
He's not a bad guy.
if it's close enough, they will shut him down. If they have to make it look like he did something illegal, if they have to put him in prison, if they have to make him have a car accident.
I mean, that's always been like the shadow government does that, you know, to like, yeah.
So Biden has to get in office, then get the vaccine.
So why is Biden, so they're controlling it, it's the new world order, like they're getting Biden. So there's nothing, so what if, so what, so did, what, who, how did, so the ballots did jade the election in favor of Biden?
Yes. It's a legitimate election. Trump won by a landslide.
You could tell by how many people show up at Trump. No.
I think California has always been Republican because of the deep state. It's always been.
Wow.
If you notice, there's another thing that just happened that everybody's neglecting to see.
If there's any dispute that the voice heard on the recordings is actually the voice of Kenneth Scott Koch, a phone call was made the following day referencing that visit. His name is clearly stated during the conversation, at which point Koch says the affiant isn't as secure as she thinks she is.
To do with this information right now until she gets in here?
Yeah, I mean, because she thinks that she's just off the grid, you know, untouchable, and I've got her entire life history set in a file, including 11 of her family members.
I'm overwhelmed. Scott Koch, I could have done without all this.
Well, I figure she needs to know
Yeah.
that her information is not.
She does, you're
it's not
right.
public or private. Because she was just adamantly convinced that it is.
If there's still doubt about who exactly Kenneth Scott Koch is and whether or not he's telling the truth about the planes or his relation to the infamous Koch brothers, PC Radio was also provided with audio recordings of a phone call between the affiant and Koch's boss at Mayhem Solutions.
Finding the person and Scott flew his planes to help us, you know, so I know he's not BSing when it comes to stuff like that. So, I mean, there's a lot of truth to who he is and what he does now. So I don't think any of that's false. I don't think him being a Koch brother or a Koch brother's grandson is any untruth. I think it's truth. I've seen the pictures, and I know I've heard conversations with him and his mom and his father. And when his father called and left a message on his phone, I was actually there in the office when it happened.
So he's definitely a grandson of the Koch brothers.
Yes, he's related to the Koch brothers family.
To further illustrate the reach of Kenneth Scott Koch and his proximity to the ballots and other restricted areas, we'll reference another sworn affidavit obtained by PC Radio. It says, quote, I was at the Maricopa County Tabulation Center on or about November 9th, 2020, at which time I witnessed a conversation taking place between a man who I recognized as Scott Koch and 2 to 3 men standing on the other side of the, quote, free speech barrier that had been erected in the parking lot. Arizona Senator-elect Kelly Townsend noticed this conversation taking place as well and made a comment to the effect of, quote, I wonder who those guys are. I told her I recognized the men and I would go find out. I approached the man I knew to be Scott Koch and said a friendly hello and asked if the guys he was talking to were poll workers. He responded that no, they were private security contractors and that the gentleman in the middle was the owner and that he, Scott, was working for that company now. I acknowledged this, made some other little small talk for a minute or so, and then returned to give the news to Ms. Townsend. I didn't think much of it at that time, but I did find it curious that they had private security at the tabulation center when the Maricopa County Sheriff's has been providing security the entire week prior. Now, some might say that Koch is lying. He's just some crazy guy that made the whole thing up. Here's his boss again, referring to the credibility of Koch.
Necessarily mean that he was doing security. He works on the F-35 strike fighter. Those are DOD contractors. He has a security clearance to work on aviation stuff. Okay, so how am I the bad guy here?
Well, I think because
to say that I'm covering for him, and that what he's saying is not credible when it is credible. Everything he says in that video or audio about who he is and what he's done is not false. You guys are just misinterpreting what he's saying and trying to discredit him.
There will be a slew of commentary on this tape. The position of some will be that this is a big nothing burger and that someone's just trying to push a narrative for political reasons. This is not an opinion piece. I do that on my regular program. That's not what this is. What this is a man who says he's a DOD official and a member of the Koch family, which is substantiated by the man that he works for, and who was seen in a restricted area at an Arizona vote counting tabulation location, all corroborated by sworn affidavits and court documents, who stated on a recorded audio tape that he's aware of ballots on a plane which he acknowledges were used to, quote, jade the 2020 presidential election in favor of Joe Biden. You decide.